What is up, guys? My name is Cal and welcome to the channel. I'm currently on a quest in Maplestory to obtain the Chaos Reboot set on all of my characters. The Chaos Reboot set is a highly sought after set of equipment that players usually keep with them until the late game. And while I don't plan on bringing 40 plus characters to the late game, this set looks absolutely amazing and I want all of my characters to wear it. In these kinds of video, you're gonna see me challenge the Chaos version of the Queen, the Clown, the Chicken, and the Serpents for tokens that can be exchanged for these pieces of gear. I'll be doing this solo on every character and I'll share my experience with you along the way. Be sure to check out the playlist in the description if you missed any parts to this series, but other than that, I hope you enjoy the show and let's jump straight into the action. Alright, so first up we are doing this on Lynn. Here are her equipment and here is her stats. Alright, so the last time I played Lynn was when she was still the Beast Tamer, and back then she had a bunch of different builds. I remember you would invest in cat form for training, and when you reach mid to late game you would switch to bear form for bossing. At least that's what I remember. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. With that said, Lynn is a completely different class now, and surprisingly she's a pretty straightforward class to learn. What surprised me about Lynn is that for a support, her burst damage is pretty strong. My first burst took her down to about 75% HP, which I was happy to see. Considering that Pierre is next, this meant that I won't have any trouble with him. Hey, what's up? It's Editing Cow here, and there might be a bit of foreshadowing here, just to let you guys know. Anyways, facing off with the Queen, I was very confident in my abilities, to a point where I outright disrespected some of her mechanics. Of course, I didn't come out of this fight without a death. I definitely pushed my luck a little bit too much as I kept limit testing, and around 32%, she gave me the good old suck as I greeted for some damage. Other than that, it was actually a pretty clean fight. Moving on to Pierre the Clown. The first burst went great. I got him down to about 70% HP, and then I kinda had a brain fart moment. You see, he was in his red form, and I, for some reason, went to the other side of the room and lost sight of him. While running away, he did his disappearing trick, and because he did that off screen, I didn't see it, so he got me with the one shot. A little bit after that, I got hit by the knockback, which I was not happy about because I wasn't at full HP, which resulted in another death. It's fine though. I shook it off and continued to chip him down to 33%. Once his HP was there, the plan was simple, and it was to wait for the right hat combination. When it came time to burst, everything seems normal at first, until this happened. I don't know about you, but looking at the replays, I definitely waited for the hat to finish falling down before jumping away, and somehow I still got hit with it? That was pretty questionable. Anyways, because of this, Pierre split it into two. Now, I've been in this situation before, so plan B was to die and cleanse away the hat and wait for the right opportunity to finish him off. Luckily, I did not heal any of the clones, which means they were a sliver away from death. In the midst of the chaos, I actually died again as I failed to track where the red clone was. I kinda just walked into my own death here. It's alright though, I immediately got back up and then mashed every single attack key possible to finish him off. Next up is Von Bon, and he was actually pretty easy. By now, because of what happened with Pierre, I was locked in. I wasn't gonna let any of Von Bon's attack touch me. There were a couple close calls, I'm not gonna lie, like this one, but overall, I went through the whole fight without losing any lives, which was a nice change of pace for once. There was something new I learned about Lynn during this fight, and that is the length of her dash. I found out real quick that her dash is pretty long, which means Vellum might be a bit of a challenge. In my opinion, shorter dashes are way better for the C-Vel fights because you can be more precise with where you're baiting the spikes without taking up too much space. Regardless though, it is a dash that I can use to GTFO if need be. Okay, so the Chaos Vellum fight was a roller coaster of emotions as I went from frustrated to hype to dreadful and then eventually disappointment. My first attempt, performance-wise, was pretty shameful for my standards. You see, it was a rocky start. I died twice at the very beginning because I was dashing straight into the falling rocks. Not letting it get to me though, I sat up, locked in, and played out of my mind. For the next few minutes, I was dodging anything and everything that came my way. Through it all, I somehow managed to get Vellum down to about 17% HP without losing a single life. Unfortunately, that ends there. I think I kind of just ran out of super juice at this point because I died a third time due to dashing into a corner, getting stunned, and eating another spike. That's okay, I have 2 lives left over with only 17% left to go. There was no way I would die twice, right? You see, once you get Vellum past 50% HP, it will often go underground and pop up on either ends of the map. The safe spot are usually the ends where Vellum pops up on. The thing is, the mechanic for this fight doesn't stop at the end of the map. For example, these falling rocks on the ceilings, yeah, they can go off screen, and if you're in a corner here like I am, you can actually get hit by one without even seeing the indicators for it. To be honest, this resulted in one of the most unfair deaths I've ever seen in this game. Regardless, I quickly revived, but unfortunately, I got hit with a fireball as I tried to make my way back to Vellum. It was at 1.7%. I felt this one in my soul, I'm not gonna lie. I immediately went back in for the rematch. The fight was still rocky at best from start to finish, but this time around, I made it a point to be extra aware of all of the falling debris indicators. And by the end, I was able to beat down C-Vel with 2 lives left over. Alright, so I am on the Bishop. Finally, I get to play something that I'm comfortable with, especially for movement, because I'm a teleport class. But anyways, here is the equipment, pretty standard. And then here is the stats. I got pretty unlucky with the inner ability, so nothing really good there. Okay, so with Bishop, I was just glad that I was back on a teleport class. With the Queen, I was a lot more careful this time around, as the Bishop just did not deal as much damage as the Lin. Bishop is a pretty safe class altogether, with Benediction and Holy Shield mitigating a lot of the damage I took for this fight. Regardless though, I still died a couple times. The first death was on purpose because I wanted to cleanse away the fire dot, but then the Queen proceeded to change into her ash form right after, so it was kind of a waste. A little bit down the line, I actually unalived myself with a potion because I did not notice the zombie status effect was on me. The last death was also a pretty goofy one. I forgot that I have a toggle that lets my teleport deal damage to nearby targets, so when the Queen was in her reflect bubble, I teleported right into her and died. Otherwise, the rest of the fight went pretty smoothly. Oh boy, I was not having a good time on PF with this batch. I started this fight off really strong. I got him down to 33% with no troubles at all. The problem that I ran into was that my Bishop just didn't have the burst damage needed to take him down from 33%. I was about 10% off from killing him, which caused him to split. While this was fine, as I typically would go with plan B by this point, I, however, was really impatient for this fight. I wasted a couple lives trying to chip their HP down as much as possible and kept dying at random spots while healing them in the process. Before I knew it, I had lost a total of 4 lives while the clones were still in a healthy range. This was a go next moment for me as I quit and came back a little later. Alright, so round 2 started off exactly the same as round 1. I got him down to 33%, bursted, and it took him down to about 10% HP, to which he split into 2. This time around, I played it a little differently. I started by chipping down the blue clones first before going after the red clones. This was unlike the last time where I would try to damage them both. Of course, I had to sack a couple lives just to cleanse away the hat. After getting the clones down to about 1% HP and waiting patiently for them to switch forms, I died, quickly revived, and did as much damage as possible to finish off this clown. The fight with Von Bon was my saving grace, as this was the smoothest fight I've had on my Bishop so far. Teleport makes it super easy to dodge the incoming projectiles, so all I had to worry about is jumping when he does the stomp. Now, he did catch me with a stomp, but it was the only stomp throughout the whole fight. By playing safe and patiently, in no time I was able to defeat Von Bon with only losing 1 life. When it comes to Chaos Vellum, this was a marathon of a fight. Like I've been saying, Bishop does very little damage to bosses, especially this one, which means I had to spend more time doing mechanics. My first death happened around 50% HP, which was honestly not too bad for my situation. I got a poison puddle dropped on me at full HP, which took me by surprise because I was spamming my potions. Now, about 5% later, I corner myself between the walls and Vellum, and if you've been keeping track of my record so far, this means that I got hit by a falling rock, and you should know the rest from here. This was the death that I told myself to never be in a corner again. With that in mind, slowly and surely, I was chipping away at C-Vel's HP bar until 2 more poison puddle dropped on my head. So this was looking grim. I did not not know if I had it in me to take down this boss at 23% left and with only 1 life for that matter, until I noticed that my Heaven's Door revive cooldown was about to be done in 2 minutes. You see, I entered this fight with the extra life elixir, and once that was used up, I used Heaven's Door, which is just another life. This skill has a 10-minute cooldown before you can use another life essentially. Since my bishop did no damage, I was actually in there for so long that I was about to get another life. This gave me motivation to stay focused on not dying. By the time Heaven's Door was ready to be used again, C-Vel was around 3%. This was the last stretch of the race. I did not want to be reckless here, so I popped Door, proceeded to use everything in my arsenal to finally finish off C-Vel. Surprisingly, this only took me 1 attempt. Alright, so this is Blaze Wizard, and I just realized this is the 3rd mage in this video. But you know what? That's okay. That's just how the cookie crumble. Anyways, this is the equipment, and this is the stats. Pause if you need to. So, Blaze Wizard is a class that I barely know anything about. I will say that it's a very easy to pick up, but hard to master type of class. Now, if you're a Blaze Wizard main, or even if you're somebody who actually read all the abilities, then you might have noticed that I made a crucial mistake while playing this class. You see, I had my Lion out the whole time, and while it does great single target damage, in most bossing scenario, Blaze Wizard would want the Fox Summon to be out in order to ignore elemental resistance, which gives you more final damage and gives their main attacking skills, Orbital Flame, more damage. I was unaware of this until the C-Vel fight, so please bear with me. Anyways, for the Queen, I was pleasantly surprised with the Blaze Wizard's damage. I basically used all of my skills off cooldown and burst when they were available. I got her down to about 30% HP before she took my first life. I died here because there was a bunch of hearts that spawned on top of me, and there really wasn't anything I could have done about that. I actually ended up dying again by accident by attacking the Queen while she had her bubble up. Other than that, it was a pretty chill fight altogether. Next up is the Clown, and for the first time in this video, I did not run into any issues. With a combination of good RNG and the Blaze Wizard being really strong right out of the gate, I was able to defeat Pierre within 4 minutes, plain and simple. Von Bon, on the other hand, was a completely different story. He actually puts up a good fight. He got me with a few stomps and then headshotted me with an orb while I was stuck in animation. All of this took place before I even got him down to 50% HP, so now I gotta lock in. After a few minutes of carefully maneuvering around all of these mechanics, I got him down to about 5% HP, and then this happened. Okay, you can't tell me I didn't have enough space to get out of that, because it was clear as day that I did. Today I learned that the hitbox for that clock was larger than the actual clock itself, which was something I did not expect. Anyways, it was fine. I had 1 more life, and by playing extra safe, I eventually beat down Von Bon. Okay, so remember when I said I was playing Blaze Wizard all wrong? Well, I really felt the impact of that during this fight. It felt like some of my attacks weren't hitting Vellum in time before it went back underground. I just had a feeling that I was missing out on some damage. Regardless, that wasn't the only issue I had. You see, I kept flash jumping straight into the falling rocks, or I was too slow to move, which resulted in a couple deaths. After 3 deaths, to be precise, it became a limit testing session. I basically used the rest of the fight to test if I could use flame gear in the air without dying, and the answer is no. Afterward, I took a break and read up on all of my abilities, and this was the moment where I realized I've been playing this class all wrong. With my newfound knowledge, I re-up on all of my buffs and went in for the rematch with C-Vel. Pace-wise, it was going just as slow as last time, but it felt like this time my attacks were sticking to C-Vel more often because of the Fox. Things were going pretty well. My first death was around 61%, which was a reasonable time to lose a life. The second death happened around 33% when I got wombo combo by a falling rock and Vellum popping up from the ground. That actually happened again at 29%, which was not ideal. Now that my back is against the wall once again, I had to focus up. There were definitely a couple close calls, but thankfully, luck was on my side this time around. Since Vellum is now in the phase where it'll occasionally pop up on either end of the map, I took the opportunities to deal as much damage as possible while it's in its Fire Blast animation. After carefully avoiding the ground indicators, I went out in style by dropping a big meteor onto Vellum. Alright, last but not least is my Mercedes. Here is her equipment, here is her stats. I got really lucky on her secondary, getting that 9% attack. But is that gonna stop me from dying? Probably not. When it comes to Mercedes, I always thought to do well with her, you need to be constantly performing combos to get the most damage out of her. You do this by linking her skills together, just like you would on Thunderbreaker. While performing combos is important to her kit, it is not the end-all be-all. For the most part, I link skills together to keep up her final damage buff, while at the same time using them for movement purposes. The stacking buff lasts for a good 40-something seconds, so as long as I am moving around and using more than 2 skills, I should have 100% uptime on the buff. With that said, the queen is just a big hulking target that doesn't really move around all that much, so I took the opportunity to practice some of the Mercedes combos. For not being super familiar with all of her skills though, my first burst did a decent amount of damage. Now, my first death happened because I wasn't looking at my health bar and kinda just let the fire tick kill me, but my second death was kinda sneaky, to say the least. You see, while the queen was in her love form, she summoned the mirror like she usually does, but this time it appeared behind her model. I saw the outline of the mirror and started attacking it, only to have the queen walk over it, making the outline disappear. At this point, I thought I had killed the mirror, so I kinda backed off a little bit because the queen was getting a little too close to me, but unfortunately, the mirror survived with probably 1 HP, which meant that I got charmed and walked into my death. After another round in the ash form, I decided to sack a life when I got to about 15%. My burst was coming up, so I simply waited, and not too long after that, I took down the queen. Moving on to Pierre and Von Bon, both of these bosses were pieces of cake. By now I have figured out how to properly combo with Mercedes, and it turns out she's pretty strong. My first burst on both Pierre and Von Bon took their HP down by about 30%. Seeing this, all I had to worry about was the mechanics. Since this is a good time, let me tell you what my go-to combo was. I would start with Wrath of Enlil, into Unicorn Strike, into Spike Royale, and then Leap Tornado, into Rolling Moonsault, and then end it off with Gust Dive. Because this combo puts me in the air for a brief moment, this was perfect to avoid Pierre melee attacks along with the hat, while great to dodge Von Bon's projectiles and stomps. With not too much trouble, I defeated both of these bosses without losing a single life. Alright, so my first attempt at C-Vel on the Mercedes was awful. You would think by now I learned how to maneuver every class properly, but that is just not the case. It does take me some time to feel out how each class performed for each boss. Mercedes is no exception. The problem I ran into was that my go-to combo involves a lot of buttons, and with how fast C-Vel is with going back underground, not all of my attacks were hitting it. There was some room to do the full combo, but only when C-Vel was chucking fireballs around. I resorted to mostly using my Hurricane skill while waiting for my burst to come up, as that was more consistent. Mercedes dashes were also pretty long, making it hard to be precise on where I would end up. After losing 4 lives pretty early on, it was very apparent that I needed a way to keep Velum sitting still, at least for a few seconds. So I was like, okay, let's leave and grab a bind. I used up a couple Notestone to grab the 5th job bind and re-enter the fight. Right off the bat, the bind helped out tremendously. My first burst took Velum down to about 78% HP. Somehow I managed to survive long enough for a second burst, only to die midway through it because of those falling rocks. That's okay though, it was only my first death and Velum was at 49%. Unfortunately, I got hit with another wombo combo around 42%. As I continued to chip away at Velum, I got one-shotted by a dropping poison puddle. It's so weird. These poison puddles, sometimes I would survive a hit from them and other times I would just drop dead. There's just no in between. With 2 lives left, it was looking bad. But I've been in this situation before and the fight is not over till it's over. My one saving grace was that my burst was really strong. So the plan was to play towards that win condition. I took what I learned from the Blaze Wizard and just waited around for Velum to pop up on either end of the map. Here was where I did the majority of my damage. At the end here, Velum got a last hit on me as he was about to die, but thankfully I had 1 life left over, so I waited for it to be done with chucking fireballs, revived, and finally finished it off.